Hi everybody. Yesterday I was at the temple lot and I was able to go inside the White Chapel, and I was talking to the guy that's there on Fridays, and he informed me of yet another church that's part of the Restoration movement that's headquartered here in Independence. Up until this point I thought that there were just the four: Community of Christ, and then you have Remnant Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, which is a break off of Community of Christ, and then you have Church of Christ Temple Lot, and then the fourth one was the Cutlerite Church, otherwise known as the Church of Jesus Christ. It turns out that Church of Christ Temple Lot had a splinter group that broke off, and this is them right here. The Church of Christ with the Elijah Message, established anew, 1929. I'm going to do the best that I can to explain the history of this church. Of course, it's just a very simple summary of what I know so far. Over time, I hope that I learn more. My understanding is that this is their headquarters building, or their flagship chapel. We're kind of, well, we're east of the temple lot by a ways. It's not within walking distance of the temple lot like the other headquarters buildings of these other denominations. But what happened was, you had the Church of Christ Temple Lot, right? They are their own branch. They did not break off of the RLDS Church. They didn't break off of they didn't break off after the time of Brigham Young. It was immediately in the aftermath of the martyrdom of Joseph Smith and Hiram Smith. They start all the way back then. So they were the first ones to return to Missouri. They gained possession of the temple lot, and in the lead up to 1929, when they attempted to build the temple, there was a man by the name of Otto Fetting who was RLDS, but then he became disillusioned with that church when it implemented supreme, I think it's called Supreme Directional Control, where they wanted to become more centralized. So he ended up joining Church of Christ Temple Lot. He did not have to be rebaptized, because at that time Church of Christ Temple Lot accepted the other, at least some of the other denominations, baptisms and priesthood and so forth. He later became an apostle of Church of Christ, and then he claimed that he had a vision of John the Baptist, which also went by the name of Elijah. You know that in our church, with our doctrine, Elias with an S is one of the names or titles for John the Baptist, as well as others. It's essentially a title of a forerunner, and I think that's how they're applying the name Elijah. But he said that he was receiving visits from John the Baptist, and that that this was the time to build the temple on the temple lot. And Church of Christ accepted those revelations, and in 1929 they attempted to build the temple lot. Ultimately it failed, as you know, partially because of the Great Depression, but also partly because of these visitations of John the Baptist to Otto Fetting, because he received a number of revelations. I think there were a total of 30, if I remember right, and everything was good until number 12, I think is what it said. Number 12 was a directive that anyone from that point forward that wanted to join Church of Christ would have to be rebaptized, because all other churches and denominations were fallen. And you know, it's like our church. In our church you have to be rebaptized by the proper authority. Well, at that time that was really controversial among members of Church of Christ, and it led to a large schism. I've heard different figures about how many people left, but it was sizable. One figure I heard was like a third of their church. And you know, Otto Fetting, he withdrew, of course. He's the one that led it. And they became this church. The Church of Christ, just like the Church of Christ Temple Lot, but Church of Christ with the Elijah message. Excuse me. Otherwise known as Fettingites. So let's just do a little recap really quick of the different groups. So they would refer to us as Brighamites because we followed Brigham Young after the martyrdom of Joseph Smith. And then you also have the Josephites, those that became the LDS church. They believe that the son of the prophet should become the next prophet. So that was Joseph Smith III. And then you have the Hedrickites, which is the Church of Christ Temple Lot. And right now we're talking about a splinter group off of them called the Fettingites. And then the other group that's here in Independence is the Cutlerites. Now I need to look into their history again, but they broke off. I'm not sure if it was after Brigham Young, but they are the one group that's headquartered here in Independence that believe in the temple endowment that was practiced in the Nauvoo Temple. They have their own version of it. They're essentially extinct. I don't think that they're operational at all from what I can tell, but you still have that headquarters building. I did a video of that, you know, like a couple months ago, so you can go and look at that if you want. That's within walking distance of the Temple Lot. So is the Remnant Church headquarters, and of course the Church of Christ Temple Lot. They're the ones that own the Temple Lot. And then the Community of Christ Temple is the headquarters of Community of Christ, and that's within walking distance. This is the only one right here that's not within easy walking distance of the Temple Lot. So after Otto Fetting, there was another man that kind of took upon himself the mantle, or, you know, according to their theology, he became the next person to receive these revelations from John the Baptist / Elijah. There was some kind of controversy during his time and restructuring. I don't remember, and I don't care to go into all those details. But anyway, here you have it today. It's kind of interesting because you can see the pews. Hopefully I can see it with just me looking at it. Hopefully it's showing up on the screen, but in this window right here, you have some pews that you can see. When I first looked them up, there was like a website that pulled up, but it was from a long time ago, like the 90s. I looked them up on Facebook, and they do have an active Facebook page. It seems like most of their content comes from Africa, because I guess they have a sizable following in Africa. There's a lot of churches right now that are exploding in Africa. It seems like over the last 10-15 years, Africa has really come online. I don't know how many members of their church they have. When you go to Wikipedia, there is a figure of like, oh look, we can get a pretty good look inside. There's basically just a little foyer, and then it just goes straight into the chapel. It doesn't look like the building is much more than just that chapel right there. So the Wikipedia figure was like 12,400 or 12,500 in the 80s. Who knows what it is right now. I don't even really know how many members there are of Church of Christ Temple Lot. The last figure that comes from Zion's Advocate, which is their publication, said like 7,000, and I think that was back in 2013. I'm willing to bet that this church is probably about the same size, if not smaller, but I have no idea. But their Facebook page is active, and then I went to the About section of the Facebook page, and they do have a link for their excuse me, for their active website, and so I went and checked that out. You know, they have their beliefs on there. On the main page at the bottom, they have the most recent revelation from the Elijah messenger. It was on August 15th, I think, of this year. I don't remember the name of the person that received the visitation, but you can go and read what the most recent message is from John the Baptist. It's like at the bottom of the page under church news. So I don't know how often they have these visitations. Yeah, so at this point, this is really all that I know about them. But I was really surprised to find out that there's another denomination that has its headquarters here in Independence. And it begs the question, how many more are there, if any? Is this the last one? If so, there's 5. So one more time, going from biggest to smallest: Community of Christ, Church of Christ Temple Lot, and then after that it might be this one, the Church of Christ with the Elijah message, and then Remnant Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and then the Cutlerite Church. So those are the ones that have their headquarters here in Independence, Missouri. Of course, out of all the denominations, we have the largest church at almost 18 million, but church headquarters is currently in Salt Lake City, Utah. At some point it will change. There's a whole lot of debate about exactly when, if it'll be before the millennium. You know, that's kind of like the classic interpretation, is that church headquarters would have to come back to Independence, Missouri, the temple be built before the second coming, although there's other understandings that could take place like at the beginning of the millennium. I tend to think it's something like when Israel entered the Promised Land, the tabernacle, which represented the presence of the Lord, and you could say the headquarters of the church at that time, it did not immediately go to Jerusalem. It was in Shiloh for like over 300 years. And you know, you had another people that lived in Salem. Salem was conquered by David, and then it became Jerusalem, and then it was under the reign of his son Solomon that a permanent temple was built in Jerusalem. So I could see it playing out like that, but I don't know. We'll just see. If you know of any other churches that are headquartered here, please let me know, because I'd like to go visit them. I will go ahead and put this on my spreadsheet and map. I have a couple sources for you, like helps that you can use. The link is in the description box below of every video if you want to, you know, stop by here and check it out. But I think that's going to be it for this one, so I'll talk to you guys later.